So this is how I plan out my garden, and I have to have next year's garden plan now because pretty soon I've got to put down my daffodil and tulip bulbs. I've got winter sowing that's going to happen. I've got garlic that has to go down in the fall. I've got onions already down. So we have to have a solid plan on where things will go next year, long before the first frost of winter. So this is the layout of our primary garden. This is our producing garden. This is Ibn, being an orange cat. Ibn is definitely an orange cat. He gives orange cats their name. Baby girl, go on. Excuse me, sorry for that. And Ginny is devastated right now because Alpha went for a walk without him. So there is no such thing as peace and quiet on a farm. All right, so here we have all of my beds laid out in squares. These images here indicate trellises. These new beds are being built before winter. And so looking at my map, I can see where I'm going to have sun, where I'm going to have shade. Everything can get plotted out. Let's see what we can get planned for next year. So here we get to the fun part of planning out the garden. I like to have a lot of color on the paper, so what I've done is I've got my Seed Savers Exchange and my Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Catalogs. Those are the two sources I get most of my seeds from. I always get 2 whole seed catalogs. One gets to stay whole and one gets cut and torn apart so that I can use, they've got some really great images in their catalogs, and I use that to create my plan on my poster board. And we've got new beds going in and lots of food that we need to produce, plus we need to produce for market. So I get everything on the board. And of course we have to remember that I plant throughout the year. So some of these things are going to go down once and take all summer to grow and be ready to harvest. Some of them are going to get rotated out quite a bit. We've got walking onions already in the ground. We've got garlic getting ready to go down. So like when the garlic comes up, something else will go down in that space. And what ends up getting planted there sometimes has to wait till next year to see what it is that we're going to need, etc. So as I'm getting everything plotted, so I've got my tomatoes with some basil in between, good companion planting there, cilantro with my tomatoes, basil again with our super hot peppers. We've got our squash will actually get grown over in the middle of the center driveway, the circle drive that we've got there. So we get everything down, make sure that we've got a plan for everything that we like to eat, everything we intend to sell. And as soon as I had this all together and I had a solid plan ready to go, I immediately realized that there is no room for flowers. And I like to have my cut flowers. I like my tulips. I need to draw pollinators into my garden before my vegetables need to be pollinated, because if there's no bees in my garden, when my vegetables start to bloom, then there's nothing to pollinate them. So I like to draw them in nice and early, and we're going to have new hives in the spring. So I've got to keep my bees fed and happy throughout the year. So all of this, and I don't have enough garden space. So we just went out and looked at the layout and what we had room for and what options were available, and we've decided that we're going to be adding 2-foot by 5-foot cinder block beds in between our 3-by-5 raised wooden beds so that I can put down some flowers as well. I really love to have my cut flower bouquets throughout the year. And again, where am I going to put my tulips and my daffodils when the garden space is completely allocated? Another thing we have to always bear in mind is that some things grow in the spring, some in the summer, some in the fall. So in this space specifically, this is the C1, our cinder block bed 1 that is closest to the house. The house is on this side, so it casts shade in the afternoon. And we have these trellises that are going to have cucumbers and loofah gourds and things growing on the other side. So this area here is going to get a ton of shade for a big part of the year. So what we're going to do is in the spring, before the cucumbers and the gourds have had a chance to really grow, we'll have all of our spring greens that like a little bit of shade don't need near as much sun. So we'll have our bok choy, our broccoli, kohlrabi, and things like that. We'll have these all pulled out and harvested by the time these guys are casting shade on that bed. And when that happens, we'll replace these things with some nice tall sunflowers that can reach over them to get their light. So we'll have a whole bed full of beautiful sunflowers in kind of cascading heights, so really tall in the back, getting a little shorter in the front, but still tall enough to get the light that they need over our cucumbers and gourds. And then when the sunflowers are done and the cucumbers and gourds have all been harvested, that's when it's going to be fall again, and we put these same cold weather vegetables that don't mind the shade back in there. And now we get to the point in the video where I get to apologize that Jenny is outside barking at something that she saw move in the bushes. And if anybody saw that and got concerned, we're just sharpening kitchen knives today too. So that's got nothing to do with this. So wish me luck now adding in some more beds so I can plot out my flower garden in between everything else. And then I'll be ready to tack this up on the wall, and it'll be time to build beds. And there we have it, all mounted up on the wall, next year's garden plan. So we know what we're working with. Now, for those of you who know me and how I like to grow things, don't worry. All the stuff that I grow that you don't see on here is simply being grown in the chicken bed or in the pollinator bed. Or we're putting in a new bed for naturalizing local wildflowers as well. This is just what's going to be in our main production garden in 2025. And it's exciting to have a plan for that. All right, let's get growing.